Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Todd McFarlane Day. We're looking at the Incredible Hulk issue number 341, cover dated March 1987. Just to let you know, this will be the last official Todd McFarlane review for a little while, just because I've reached the limit of my collection, and this is the last Todd McFarlane drawn and inked issue that I actually own right now. If in the future I find some extra issues of Incredible Hulk I don't have yet, and Amazing Spider-Man, those are kind of the two where I still got some holes. I'll be reviewing those sporadically when they come in for sure. But I do want to say this one's kind of important for a few different reasons. Obviously, I can't review issue 340, which is the issue before this, just because it's the Wolverine issue, right, where it's that famous cover of Wolverine with the claws out and Hulk's reflection, the face in it. I don't actually have that one. Unfortunately, it's very expensive, so if I find a kind of beaten up reader copy for a good price, I'll pick it up. For now, I don't have it though. So that officially is the first issue that is inked by Todd McFarlane, but the cover itself still inked by Bob Wiacek, and not Todd McFarlane himself. So this is the first Todd McFarlane inked cover on the Incredible Hulk and at his Marvel run, I think, in all his professional career. I could be wrong on that. If I am, let me know in the comments. But I think basically this is the first Todd McFarlane inked cover. And what a cover it is, right? We're getting all the McFarlane tropes, all the noodly lines and stuff. One thing you'll notice early on in his career, he's not using shadows and big dark spaces as much as he will later on, which will definitely help improve his art. So there's, as you go through last issue and this issue, 340, 341, it's almost like, if you know about McFarlane, there's something a little bit missing there that eventually he'll integrate into the artwork. Early Amazing Spider-Man has a little bit of this as well, but then he slowly and surely starts to be more confident, I think, is what was going on. He probably wasn't confident about putting down those dark spaces and kind of compensated with the little bit of noodly lines and stuff, which eventually he'll integrate both into a style. And that's basically, to me anyways, where he hits peak McFarlane in and around, you know, the Spider-Man series they did and wrote himself in the early 90s. So this one's kind of a throwback, I guess, to the McFarlane style, but a lot of it is there already. Just want to point out too, when I see this fist, I literally think this is where Rob Liefeld, you know, literally lifted and stole the 3/4 fist here that he used all throughout, at least, you know, the early 90s, you know. There's just something in the way it's drawn and the bit of the arm here that I saw him reproduce all throughout his early career there at Marvel. All right, let's have a look inside. So right away, we get the McFarlane style up front. We got all the noodly line work, but like I said, the only bit of blacks and shadows we're going to get are for backgrounds and things. And what these farmers basically discover is the Savage Bull. The Minotaur is what he's called, right? This issue definitely playing to McFarlane's strengths, right? The Hulk's already a pretty monstrous character, the Minotaur as well, you know. Todd McFarlane's always said he was more interested, a little bit more into, you know, gory and kind of horror comics and stuff, so this is right up his alley and it works really well. But as you'll notice all throughout these pages, other than, you know, a flat jacket here, a little bit on the phone booth here. Funny, this is two issues in a row, yesterday and today, where we got the phone booth, which I don't even know if they're, I mean, I think it still exists today, and there's a few here and there, but who actually uses them? I have no idea. Let me know in the comments if you have any idea, or if you use phone booths. I'm just kind of curious. Oh, sorry, credits. Peter David writer, Todd McFarlane art, Rick Parker letters, Peter Scotese colors, and that's where we ended. So, also in the storytelling, I feel like McFarlane, not just in the aesthetic and the inking, he's starting to establish, you know, the McFarlane aesthetic and the vertical panels, right? And the, you know, smaller number of panels per page. So 5 here, which, you know, would happen in old Marvel comics, but, you know, the number of panels per page will get smaller and smaller. Incredible Hulk here, his face kind of weird and lumpy. Like there's still something a bit gooey and soft about the way McFarlane's drawing. His figures lack a bit of solidity, I guess, but we're definitely getting the typical McFarlane faces here, right, all the way throughout with Alan Quartermain and Rick Jones. But all his depictions of the Minotaur, not full on McFarlane yet. I feel like he's almost like practicing for when he's going to do Wendigo in on the Spider-Man series. I almost feel like this is a bit of practice for that. And they shoot at the whole conceit of the story, I'll just give you now, is the Minotaur, of course, is more human than animal, but, you know, everyone treats him more like an animal, and that's why he's savage and kills people and stuff. So, you know, it's that old story. But you will, like I said, the layouts and stuff right away are just much more McFarlane, much more indicative of things that we're going to see in Amazing Spider-Man, and to even more extreme effect in Spider-Man and Spawn, right? Over the years, slowly but surely. I mean, Peter David is still writing up a storm, so man, to read this is kind of a slog, and I don't really feel like doing it. We get another shot of the leader here, which I don't know if Tom McFarlane on his run eventually gets to the point where he draws the leader, you know, full time in the issue. He appeared a couple of issues ago, maybe last issue. I didn't read it because, like I said, I don't have it. But there's something about his depiction and the McFarlane hands and the way his brain was drawn that I think is really interesting, and I'd like to see more of. We've got those McFarlane textures in the backgrounds here, so a lot of, like I said, the aesthetic tropes of McFarlane are present already early on here. Once he starts inking himself, he'll just become more adept at using you know, shadows and dark spaces. At this point, I just feel like he doesn't have the confidence to do that, and so he's not doing much of it. Also, you know, foreshortened shots, bird's eye views, worm's eye views, he's still not doing a lot of. Everything is pretty much up front. You know, you're kind of looking head on at it. Not a lot of that going on in this issue. That kind of starts, I guess, maybe, you know, when he jumps on Spider-Man, it's almost like the character lends itself to that extreme foreshortening and those different, you know, views as he's swinging through the sky. And it's, you know, almost as if that forces McFarlane to have to try those angles and do some interesting stuff there. And then he integrates it. So, you know, the various angles, the use of shadows and stuff, that'll come along later. But already, you know, he's given us a style that's interesting and exciting. And that's why, you know, he was able to build on this and move up in his career and eventually become one of the most popular artists of the day. And, you know, it kind of starts here, or the issue before, with him inking himself. That was kind of like the final missing piece of the puzzle there, where by inking himself, he also just overall becomes a better artist and starts, again, integrating eventually the shadows and the foreshortening and, you know, the different angles of view. Again, look at all these pages. You're getting the McFarlane verticals, right? You're getting some more interesting panels and storytelling, but they're all pretty much head-on shots, right? Almost like compared to Mignola that I've talked about also does the same thing. I just find it works better for him than it does for McFarlane. McFarlane will get even better when he starts doing those up shots and down shots. But we're getting, you know, the debris and the destruction and stuff. Definitely seeing a lot of that noodly Todd McFarlane detail. You know, I could see how people reading this would have probably, once he starts inking himself, thought, wow, this book looks quite different from everything else that's on the stands. You know, every other comic mostly or almost has kind of a, you know, Ron Friends, Marvel House style kind of look. And this is obviously going to be more exciting than that stuff, even though there's, you know, areas in which he could improve, as I've talked about with the shadowing and stuff. But it's a choice too. It's an aesthetic choice. I'm not saying this doesn't work, right? It's almost like Todd McFarlane doing, I talked about last time, clear line style, which is like a GF Darrow kind of thing, even though not comparing both. Obviously GF Darrow much more illustrative and much more photo referenced, and knows how to draw every little screw thing that's from reality, where McFarlane obviously is, you know, exaggerating stuff and using a much more cartoony style. They're both still kind of just drawing no shadows and clear line, right? Letting the colors do any of the shadow work if there's any to be done. Although I would say in this issue, still pretty simple, basic Marvel style coloring from the 80s. So yeah, not a lot of modeling and shadow work happening here at all. Sometimes I see little shots, you know, it's been said that McFarlane swiped a lot of stuff from John Byrne for his Hulk run. I feel like that arm is a very John Byrne kind of arm, so may have swiped that from somewhere. But hey, who doesn't swipe? This is kind of a weird one, just because I think the shot is very dynamic, but here's something about, you know, even within the image, how you crop stuff. The hand over Hulk's, you know, face, maybe if you just moved it up on top of his head and you saw more of the Hulk's face, you know, making him look kind of angry and stuff and charging, would have been a better kind of cropping for the hand here. And there's little things too, like, you know, not very Marvel style and dynamic as far as the punch goes. Like I said, he's avoiding a lot of the foreshortening and the harder stuff to draw. So you get a shot here that's, you know, not that it's badly drawn or anything, but it's definitely not the Jack Kirby Marvel style. It's fairly static, and it doesn't feel like Manatar was hit that hard necessarily, other than this kind of effect space they've left. More of that McFarlane technology and debris. Very well done. As the coloring gets better, it'll be easier to pick out more of the elements that are within this, you know, bit of debris here. And the only real shadow that we get pretty much all throughout this issue, right? The one time I guess he wants to make the Hulk look, you know, very intimidating, or more intimidating than before. And he's used this before in past issues, right? So I'm surprised that he doesn't use it more all throughout this issue. This is pretty much, I think, the only kind of really shaded and shot all throughout this thing. And of course the shot where I think it's pretty effective, where you're supposed to have a bit of pity for the Manatar, right? I think he pulls that off pretty well here with the softening of the features and the sad eye and stuff. I think it's done well. I do feel a tinge of sympathy for him here, you know, pulling at my heartstrings a little bit. So what he says to the Hulk is, you know, kill the Savage, calling himself the Savage. Can't live like this anymore. But the Hulk doesn't want to do that, right? So he's going to leave him to the Pitchforkers, right? The Frankenstein crew trying to come to kill the monster. Hulk, it's some mutated animal, that's all. We have to kill it. No, he's human. Savage, talk to them. Let them know or they'll kill you. And I did like this part because he does want to get killed. He wants the suffering to end, so he doesn't actually talk. So the Hulk is, I get it. That's what you want, isn't it? Jones was wrong. You're nothing like me because I never give up. Fine, let him stick your head on a pitchfork. I don't care anymore. Let them kill you. Wait, hold it. Look at its eyes. He's, and they see him crying, right? I think it's pretty effective here, the storytelling that McFarlane pulls off. Again, pulling at the emotional heartstrings of the kids and even this old guy right here. But what do we do now? He has to be punished. Whatever else you do doesn't matter. You're already punishing him. You're going to let him live. So I don't know if that's a writer's conceit, where because it's a Marvel comic, they can't imply that the farmers and the Pitchfork crew are going to kill the Manatar. So he had to throw that in the dialogue. I don't know. You know, maybe again, back then, at least, these comics were still being written for kids and young teenagers and stuff. So I guess they had to keep that in mind to a certain extent, right? And they were still under the comics code. So, you know, killing, unless it was, you know, I guess aliens and monsters, I guess you can get away with it, Manatar. But trying to drive home the point all throughout that he's more man than animal, I guess, is maybe where the line is drawn. I'm not so sure. And that ends it for today's review and for Todd McFarlane reviews for the foreseeable future. Hope you enjoyed them. Guys, if you're still watching and you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a quick second for you. Really helps the channel out, helps us grow, and helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books just like we are. We are closing in on our goal of hitting 500 subscribers. We're almost there. We're past 450. 500 is the point at which YouTube recognizes us as a real official channel and starts helping us out a little bit with the algorithm and suggesting us to other people who might be interested in the channel. So tell your friends who are into comic books to check it out, and if they enjoy the reviews, to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and have yourselves an awesome day.
Like, subscribe, like, subscribe.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.